the last thing I remember saying was, it's too bright. It's too bright. And they pushed my body into the back of the ambulance. But immediately I'm above the ambulance. I'm outside of the ambulance, above the ambulance. I can see the probationary fire department people sweeping up the glass from the accident.
Hey everyone, today, thanks for being here again. And today we're talking with Steve Lavoie. Did I pronounce your last name correct?
You did?
Okay.
You did, yes.
Great. And he is a near-death experiencer. And I'm really happy to chat with him today and help and hear about his story and his near-death experience. So welcome, Steve. Thanks for being here with me.
Good to be with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you mind sharing a little bit of your background and then tell us about your near-death experience, if you would, please?
My childhood was not the best of childhoods. I'm going to start there.
Okay.
I came from a very abusive family. A lot of people could say, oh, well, I came from an abusive family too. My family I didn't know if I came home from school, if I'd be experiencing Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde with my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom had very emotional mood swings. Mm-hmm. In the 60s, she had an electric shock done on her brain. She was in a psych hospital for a long time. I went through a lot of issues with aunts and just everything. And so I became very angry. Mm-hmm. Because nobody was listening to me. Like a lot of people, a woman that has been raped becomes angry when she's not being heard. Mm-hmm. And so I went to counselor after counselor after counselor, and nothing helped. I gave up on churches altogether, even though I attended churches. It just seems so unreal. Yeah. And I found one counselor that I was working with. And I was actually going into my second appointment. Had my first appointment, it went really good. He had me look at my heart, and that's something that was closed off. And I was going to my second appointment when the car accident that almost took my life happened. It was a little after about 10 o'clock in the morning. Driving my car to the appointment. I was halfway through the intersection when this driver, I looked over to my left side, and all I saw was headlights of his car coming to me. I could not accelerate. I could not skid out of the way. He hit me right on the driver's door. Immediately, my wife now was a former paramedic. And she says in a side impact accident, when you're going a certain speed, your speed cancels out. And you immediately pick up the speed of the car pushing you now. Okay. And I say that because I'm going to go into a little bit of that. When our cars broke away, my car hit a curb and flipped up and went around a telephone pole. The car I was in had a separate lap belt and a shoulder harness, and the lap belt was cutting into me. A bystander managed to get the lap belt off of me and cut it away. And then because of that, I passed out. I came through to a few minutes later to a paramedic barely sitting on what was the front passenger seat. And he's got a cervical collar on me. And he's telling me, you know, he's got to put a sheet over me. He's going to climb on the sheet. They're going to use the jaws of life to cut the door open to get me out of the car. And so he climbed under the sheet and I'm in this thing. And he managed to get my hands off of the steering wheel. The door opened up. They brought a backboard in. They laid me down on the backboard, taped my head as best possible to the backboard. I didn't honestly know what injuries I had. And I preface this to tell you what I'm going to tell you in a few minutes. They put me on a gurney and they're wheeling me just a little ways away to the ambulance. And the paramedic's saying, you got to keep awake. You got to keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open. And the last thing I remember saying was, it's too bright. It's too bright. And they pushed my body into the back of the ambulance. But immediately I'm above the ambulance. I'm outside of the ambulance, above the ambulance. I can see the probationary fire department people sweeping up the glass from the accident. I actually saw a tow truck driving to the scene of the accident, another tow truck pulling into the accident scene. You know, for my car, it took 2 tow trucks to pull it away from the pole. And they had to have another pole from another truck from the power company to check out the pole. And so they had this crane to hold the pole because I didn't snap the pole. And the power company says that I hit the pole with enough force to move it in the ground 6 inches in one direction.
Wow.
The injuries I sustained was open head on the right side, closed head on the left side. It literally.
Excuse me, so you had an open wound on the right side and.
Yeah, closed
head. And no closed head wound on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, when the pole cut into the car, my head hit the pole, bounced off the pole and hit the side pillar of the car. So I'm floating above the accident scene, watching everything. And I knew these guys were brand new fire department people, probationers, sweeping up the glass, doing all the menial labor. There was one guy putting tools back in. They put the jaws of life back in the fire engine. Immediately from there, now a lot of people talk about a tunnel. And I definitely agree with that. My thing was, it was more like a roller coaster ride from heaven. It was like, I'm here, bink, I'm there. Now, mind you, I really don't like roller coasters, but this happened so quick to where I didn't have time to react. I walked into heaven and I was angry because I still had the mentality or the mindset of nobody's going to hear me. Nobody's going to see me, right? I'm the abused victim, push me to the
I
side,
see.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
These personalities, these light beings came up to me. And in my mind, I knew exactly what they needed me to do, which was follow them.
Hmm.
So I'm walking with them and I'm pissed. I'm getting angry. I want answers. And they're not giving me answers. We went into a room that was like a 360, circle room. And the walls of the room were kind of like an IMAX screen
Hmm. Hmm.
to where I could literally see completely around. Even if I'm facing forward, I could see behind me
Right.
perfectly well.
Right.
And they're talking to me. And they asked me one question 4 times. And the question was, who are you?
Mm.
And all this time, they asked me the question the first time, and I'm watching my life. I'm watching the abuse I went through. I'm watching all the people I beat up, um, the anger I felt. And I told these people who I was, these beings that asked me this question. They shook their head no.
So when you told them who you were, did you tell them your name? Is that what you
I
mean?
told them
Or
I told them my name. I
okay.
told them how much, what job I did, what,
Okay.
they went, no, no. They said, who are you? And I'm furthermore going into my life review and watching everything. And the scenes slowly started morphing and changing. The people I was screaming at, the people I was beating up, the people I was yelling at slowly morphed into me. So if I was beating up somebody, I was beating up myself.
Hmm.
If I was screaming at somebody, if I was hurting somebody, I was hurting myself.
Hmm.
And they asked me 2 more times, who are you? And I told them, what job I did and who I knew and this, that, and the other thing. And I puffed up my big pride and ego and all. And no. The fourth scene, I saw my life flash before my eyes. I saw my dad pass away, even though I was not with my dad at the time. I saw my mom's death. I saw everybody's death. And they asked me, and they said, who are you? And I thought about that. I said, hey, I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am anymore. They nodded their head. And they looked at me and said, you are love. That's all you are, is love. I asked them, I said, I feel like I've caused a lot of pain and hardship on the earth. I would like to stay here. And they said, no, not this time, but in the future you will come back here. But for now, you have to complete one mission. And I'm like, what's the mission? I want to know. They said, well, we'll be talking. We'll talk. And So we left that building, I was still in the light. We left that building. And when I came out of that building, possibly from what I saw when I came out was the same thing as when I went in. But at
Mhm.
the time, I wasn't in the mindset to see it and understand it.
Mhm.
When I came out of the building with these light beams, the sky was full of rainbows. I mean, it wasn't just one rainbow. It was millions upon millions upon millions upon millions upon millions
Wow.
of rainbows. Furthermore, each color of the spectrum of each rainbow. So, I mean, the blue color has multiple spectrums.
Mhm.
Each and every distinct color
Mhm.
was singing a different tone, the solfeggio tones. So it was a symphonic chorus of music. And it was truly amazing. And I told him, I said, I would really like to stay. I kind of like this, and they said, no, you gotta decide if you're gonna be committed to this mission. And if you're not, that's okay. But you're not gonna be staying this time. I'm like, okay, I'll do the mission. They went, okay, we'll be talking. And next thing I know, I'm faced with cold metal on my back. And I feel the trauma table
Yeah.
that my body was lying on.
Yeah.
And it's cold. There's, cold metal to the skin. And this doctor, I can't see him, but he's on my right side. And he's going, okay, good. You're back with us. Okay. Um, you're going to hear some noise. Don't worry about it. I'm working on your head right now. And I heard, and he was literally putting my scalp back together on this side of my head.
Wow.
I spent approximately what I believe was 7.5 hours in the trauma room. And I hired, through friends of mine, an attorney to sue the guy that, hit me.
Mhm.
And because his insurance company took over my care, I could only spend 2 days in the hospital after the trauma room.
Wow.
And I got to see the bill for the trauma room. The trauma room alone was 500,000.
Oh. Wow.
I was in the hospital for 2 days at $6,000 a day.
So that included the trauma room, the 2 days that you were in the hospital.
512,000. Yeah,
That's some trauma.
yeah, yeah. When I got out of the hospital, I came home and I got right into physical therapy, having to learn how to pick up a pen,
Mhm.
um, how to pick up a fork and eat.
Wow. Yeah.
I couldn't do anything, and I had to learn everything. And I learned the simplicity of thank you, the simplicity of gratefulness, gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And approximately, I was living in California at the time, and I moved up here to Washington State in 2010. And one morning, I'm sitting in my living room up here in Washington State, meditating.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear this voice in my head. And I thought, I'm going crazy. I'm hearing voices. I'm going crazy.
Been there.
And this voice goes, hello. I'm going, okay, I'm losing it. Getting ready to call a psychiatrist up, put me on some medication. And I'm like, am I losing my mind? He goes, no, you're not losing your mind. Hello. Right. Immediately, right then and there, I stopped and I went, oh. And the memory that I had of my near-death experience flooded back to me
Mm-hmm.
immediately. It was like in crystal clear color.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear the sound of the car, the car hitting my car.
Excuse me, Steve, did you remember it before that? Any of it before that?
I could not, no.
Yeah.
No.
Mine was the same way. Yeah.
It's funny. I remember one thing. After the fact, I went to a friend's house. I had a walker that I had to
Mhm.
walk with. And I went to a friend's house and his son was there. And I said, hey, I need to go to the wrecking yard to get some stuff out of my car. So if you can drive me there. His father goes, yeah, take my truck and go get his stuff.
Mhm.
Right. So we went to the wrecking yard with my friend. I went to a wrecking yard with my friend, and they had this Dutch door on their office, and the top part was open so you could like look in.
Mhm.
And so I had the pink slip for my car and the registration and all. And I stuck my head in and said, hey, I'd like to get my stuff out of the car. And they said, which car were you in? I'm like, the car down on such and such a street that was wrapped around a telephone pole. 3 of the tow truck drivers, and these guys are big burly dudes, their faces went white. They said, you could not have survived that crash. There was too much blood in the car.
Wow. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what I learned from my near-death experience.
Well, I interrupted you. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but
Okay.
I interrupted you when you were talking about the the
The
person
voice.
the being that was talking to you, the voice.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, they said hello, and I went, because like the memory flooded back in. And I was like going, okay, so the mission, and they showed me what the mission was. And I was going, I can do that. Yeah. Basically, my Facebook post, just the Facebook post alone, is the tip of the iceberg of my mission. I know we've been through some harrowing times this last year of 2020,
Mhm.
but there's still peace there.
Right.
I know we've had a lot of hatred, a lot of, I hate you because of your color. I hate you because of this. I hate. But there's still love
Mhm.
there.
What is your
And
Facebook post? I don't know if you shared that with me. Or
I I
if you
have
care to
like
share it.
I just post a lot of like positive quotes,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
a lot of
So more than
personal,
one.
a lot of
Okay.
personal quotes
Sure.
on there. And my thing is that we can get through this, all of this that we're going through right now. We
Hmm.
can get through this
Sure.
if only we love first ourselves and then exponentially everybody else in the world.
Right. It's interesting, if you don't mind me interjecting a little bit here, when you said that the beings told you that you are love.
Mhm.
I'd like to share a little
Please.
experience I had. It was after my mother passed,
Mhm.
and I was going through my awakening, my quickening. It was around the time of my near-death experience, but I was talking to her on a spirit board, right?
Mhm.
And she ended up, because she wanted to talk to my dad after he left, and so we ended up getting out a Ouija board on
Mhm.
advice of a friend of hers, just to put a little bit context with this. And so I was able to connect to him pretty quickly on the Ouija board. And so I ended up buying, when my mother passed, I ended up buying a angel board, a spirit board.
Mhm.
It's just a
Yeah.
tool. I find it's just a tool, and I teach
Mhm.
these kinds of things to connect to spirit, right? The other side. She ended
Mhm.
up bringing my guide in, who is after a while of her coaxing me to let her step out and him step in, because I felt his immense energy, which is
Mhm.
Jesus, Yeshua. And as I'm communicating with him, one of his first questions was, what is my take on who God is, or what God is? That was the question. And I answer, oh, God is everything. God is this. God is that. And and then we'd end the conversation, and then I'd come back, and every day I sat and talked with him, and he'd ask me the question again, what is God? And I don't know how many times, maybe four times.
Mhm.
Finally I said, I got it. God is love.
Yeah.
And then he didn't ask me that. He said yes, and he didn't ask. Then we moved on to another conversation.
Mhm.
So, and I knew at that point, and of course, that's who we are.
Yeah.
It all came flooding in like that. Yeah, that's who
Well,
we are. Yeah.
I created a quote a long time ago, many years ago, probably 2015, 2016.
Uh-huh.
And the quote is, God, I asked, are you there? And I said, I am.
I love that.
You
Nice.
know,
Yeah.
we are told by the religious powers to be
Right.
that we're this way or that we're that way. And in my past, I was raised Catholic. I was going into all
So
these
was I.
different religions. I was kicked out of different churches. And I mean, I was kicked out of churches for asking questions,
Wow.
simple questions, you know. And the truth is, if I go into a church as a speaker,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member of that church.
Mm-hmm.
I will support that church. You know, I've done a few talks in a few churches and a few centers of spiritual living and other
Uh-huh.
places.
Mm-hmm.
And I always give 10% of my, whole thing that's given to me back
Right.
to the church,
Right.
back to the church.
Donation.
That's
Uh-huh.
my time.
Sure.
And the big thing is where I was before, coming from an abusive background,
Uh-huh.
I don't feel that now. I've been through that. And it's not that I loved it or shoved it under the carpet or anything. I dealt with it on such a heavenly realm
Yeah.
that I've actually forgiven the abusers.
I get that. Yeah.
Another time in meditation, I've told this to people and found this out when I was in the light about manifesting. And I've shared this with people in my events. And a few people didn't want to hear it. And a few people left the event. I had one person that came to one of my events and he listened. And a week later, I met him at church. And he comes up to me and says, dude, what you told me, wow. Where did you hear this stuff? Because like, truthfully, I got this, and this, and this, and this, and this, right? Now, going back to how to get from there to here, okay? If you want anything in your life, first off, remove the how. Remove that how completely out of your brain. The second thing is, and this is the harder part, people go, oh, that's easy. You know, you can remove the how, easy. Yeah, easy. The second part is the harder part. What you want for yourself, want for everybody else, including and especially those people that you despise. Want
Love
it for
your
them
enemies.
too. Yeah. Want it for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, getting into this young man that came to my event. He was an electrical engineer. And I asked him, I said, well, give me just two things that you want really badly in your life right now. He goes, I want one lucrative job that I can just sit down, push it out, and get a lot of money for it. I'm like, okay. All right, what's the second one? I want a girlfriend. I'm like, oh, piece of cake. So I told him how to remove the how of it. Just get that thing out of your brain. I told him how to focus on already having that lucrative job, seeing it.
Right.
Seeing the guy hand you the check or the woman hand you the check for the job that you did. See your girlfriend. He comes up to me, like I said, that Sunday, a week after my event, and goes, dude, you won't believe this. I got one job offer, and they paid me $4,000 for 3 hours of work.
Nice.
Then he goes, and by the way, I would like to introduce you to my girlfriend. You know.
Well, hopefully he was specific enough to have a good relationship.
That's on him.
Right.
You know, but yeah, we're so stuck on the how. You know,
Yeah, totally.
it's, you know, it's not rocket science, and yet we make it into rocket science.
Well, I believe that all that knowledge has been programmed out of us. And so, you know, it can be as elusive as rocket science if we don't have it in our awareness. And and so as I work with people, I always say that we're not learning this, we're remembering.
Yeah.
because we already know this on like the level you're talking about. We already know this. It's just a matter of
Mhm.
remembering. And
Exactly.
yeah, and so that's
You
what
know,
we, that's
yeah.
where we're at now. More and more people are remembering who they are, remembering
Mhm.
how to manifest and how to have the everything we desire in life.
Yeah.
Because once you are tuned into those frequencies and tuned into how remembering how to do that, then things just start happening like that.
Mhm. I had one time at one of my events, one of my friend is a fire department chaplain
Uh-huh.
for a county here in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
Really great guy, and he came to my event. Now, mind you, he's a chaplain, man with the claw, sort of thing. And he looked at me and says, "So you were in the light. You had this great near-death experience. What do your guides say about who's going to judge you or who's going to judge me?"
Oh wow.
And I'm thinking, oh, I'm dead. If I answer this guy's question wrong, he's going to end up not being my friend. He's going to end up, just totally going off on me and all. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, what do I say? Immediately my guides chimed in and said, just tell him. Just tell him. The truth is, there is going to be a great white throne judgment, but it's not who we think is going to be sitting on that throne. Because the one person that knows you better than you is your higher self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They know everything about you. The
We
same
judge
with
ourselves.
me. The same with me.
Yeah.
We're going to judge ourselves.
Ourselves. I learned that too. Yeah. Or
You know,
remembered it. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I mean, God is love. Now, I'm probably going to maybe piss off a few Christians, right? I can't see God being love and hating. It's two separate energy fields. And where I came from in my near death experience, God is love, love is God, God is love,
Right.
period. You know, for me, what happened since I came back, not so much the great events that I do or the people that I talk to on Facebook or, um, I had an interview on a radio station, an interview on a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
not that.
Mm-hmm.
When I sit down with each person and I look at them from their higher self
Mm-hmm.
and I see where they are. For me, I came from an abusive background.
Mm-hmm.
My first wife did a lot of domestic violence against me. Um, and this is right after my head injury.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I could be angry, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And it's not so much, oh, they'll get karma, no problem. Karma will get them. No, it's not that. I have no anger.
Mm-hmm.
It may sound strange to somebody. How can you not be angry for what happened to you? How can I not love from what happened to me?
Yeah. I think it's very profound what you said earlier about your experience with the light beings,
Mhm.
how eventually when you were in your panoramic life review,
Yeah.
that you finally got it or were able to see that everyone that you were hurting
Hmm.
and everyone that you brought joy to as well
Hmm.
was you,
Yeah.
parts of you. right? Yeah. And I've learned as well that, or remembered, that, you know, when we're not forgiving someone or a situation or anyone or anything, we're not forgiving ourselves.
Mhm.
So every single person that we come in contact with, every situation we come in contact with is a part of ourselves, something we've created for whatever
Yeah.
reason, to maybe get us through challenges, or maybe because we haven't cleared that trauma from before, right?
Yeah.
And so we're attracting these same types of situations. So like with your, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like with your ex-wife, this is something that maybe you attracted to you so you
Mhm.
could heal that part of you and forgive that, and forgiving her
Yeah.
forgave that part of you, so where you didn't have to attract that anymore. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Exactly. You know, if there are women out there that are rape victims, when I say I love the people that have, been in my life that have done bad things to me, it doesn't mean that I am okay with their behavior.
Right,
It means that I love them from their higher self.
right.
I see them as perfect, as beautiful beings of light,
Mhm.
as I am. Yeah, there's a saying of in Lakesh, I am another you. You are another me. If I hurt you, I in fact am hurting me.
Right. Yeah.
And, for women that have been raped, for people that have been in sexual, psychological, physical abuse,
Hmm.
forgiveness will come, but it has to be internal.
Hmm. If I could share my experience with that, if you don't
Mhm.
mind. Okay,
Yeah.
I was, as a child, I was abused every which way you could
Mhm.
imagine, and that's where I had my first near-death experience as a
Mhm.
9-year-old. But uh, as I had, when I had my second near-death experience in 2001, and I started working with Yeshua. After that,
Mhm.
he helped me in my meditations with forgiveness. And what happened was, after a while, as I'm working on these forgiveness practices that he gave me with
Mhm.
forgiving my main perpetrator as a child, I realized, I came to this realization, this epiphany, that I had seen many, many lifetimes where we had gone through experiences where he was the abuser, I was
Mhm.
the victim. And it was because he and I chose, we're in this soul group where he and I chose this experience from way back, the first experience, so that we could experience it together and then clear up the karma in
Mhm.
that lifetime. And because I was a bad person, in that lifetime in particular, where it started, threw people to the lions, threw Christians to the lions, and then he ended up throwing me and my mother to the lions. So that
Mhm.
karma was supposed to be cleared up in that lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't. That part of me got stuck. I was stuck in that trauma. So I had lifetime after lifetime of that same type of
Yeah.
experience where he agreed to incarnate with me, come back and torture me, be very cruel to me in that lifetime, so that maybe, so with the hope of me being able to heal that and forgive that situation so we could move on to different
Mhm.
experiences. So he agreed to lower his frequency so low, to be an abusive person, to be an alcoholic, whatever, as he grew up in this life. And I realized, oh my God, he loves me so much that he agreed to
Mhm.
do that with me, have that agreement with me.
Yeah.
There, how can I not forgive him? And also, there's nothing to forgive.
Mhm.
That was, now he can, and then and I've got goosebumps talking about it. Then I realized that contract, that agreement was, null and void anymore, because I
Mhm.
realized it. Now he can, in his next lifetimes and in this lifetime, move up in frequency so that he can heal his life and not be such
Right.
a, such an SOB,
Exactly.
because he
You
chose
know,
that for me.
I I had a sister that died in 2019, like 4 days right before Easter.
Uh-huh.
And before that time, we talked, and she was very angry at me and very hostile and very rage filled.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, you're just like mom.
Mm.
You're just like mom in every way. And I said, hey, stop. I am not like mom. When my middle sister moved out of the house, I told my older sister, mom turned on to me and started physically abusing me. So no, I'm not like mom. And I told her all this, all I did it. When I was going through this before my near-death experience, I found I was very fully capable of escapism. Escaped into mental illness, escaped into suicides, escaped into harmful behavior of anger. Um, it was so easy to escape, to get away
Right.
from the past.
Yeah.
When I went into my near-death experience and I saw that on the panorama of my life, I found the only one I was running from was me.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, it's funny, and this is one thing I posted on Facebook many years ago. You can go into the tallest building in the world, start at the ground floor, get in the elevator, go all the way to the top floor within a few minutes. To go from your head to your heart center, some people don't even get that far.
Yeah. It can take years and years and years, maybe,
Yeah.
if that.
And furthermore, I learned that from here to here is not a straight line. In fact, from what I've seen, it's a multi-level labyrinth. It's where you're giving up and gaining and giving up and gaining at all times as you go through this labyrinth.
Right.
And when you finally get down into your heart, that's where the fun begins. And I'm serious, because let me preface this with this thing. When I was living in California, I almost drowned out in the ocean. I got caught in a riptide,
Mm.
and a friend of mine managed to, get out there and pull me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And another time, I almost drowned in a pool. My cousins were all diving underneath the water and swimming down to touch the grate in the pool, and I wanted to do that. And I was like 12 years old at the time, so I dove into the pool, and I'm swimming down and swimming down and swimming down and swimming down, and I could not get down there far enough or fast enough, and I started sucking in water, and I almost drowned. I hate pools. I love swimming in them now, but I hate pools. Almost drowned in the ocean, almost, no, ain't getting in there. And it's the metaphor of my life. I don't like feelings before. And a lot of us are locked out of our heart space because we don't like to feel. We don't want people to know that we're soft here or mushy there.
Yeah, well, again, we've been programmed that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially the male population,
Yeah,
men, and it's a
yeah,
really huge disservice,
yeah.
to the masculine being.
I found when I first got in my heart space
Hmm.
and I'm standing on the edge of my heart space, kind of like a pool edge, and I'm looking in at the water and it's clear going all the way down, but you can't see the bottom. And I'm going, oh, fun. My higher power is going, dive in. It's okay.
The water's fine.
And I'm going, no, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good right here. I'll stick my toe in the water. I'm good. I'm good. See, I'm sticking my toe in the water. I'm fine. I got thrown in to the deep end.
Yeah.
And they're like, swim. And I started swimming under the water and I started getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And it became a meditation to me in that when you get into your heart space, you see all things as love,
Hmm.
nothing more and nothing less than that.
That reminds me of that's beautiful. Thanks, Steve. That reminds me of a really intense dream I had one time where I'm on a ship or a boat and there's
Mhm.
a storm all around me and the ship is getting ready to capsize and I have to jump off over the ship in order to save myself. And
Mhm.
I'm terrified. And I end up, I mean, there's a lot more to it, but I end up jumping over the edge of the ship and I'm picked up before I hit the water. And I'm afraid I'm going to, hit the water and it's going to, I'm just, I know I'm going to die. I just know I'm going to die. And right before I hit the water, angels pick me up
Mhm.
and, and, and swoop me away. And it was this amazing feeling of peace and love and protection and caring.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really a profound dream for me. So all I had to do was take that leap,
Yeah.
and I knew, and I was taken care of.
And that's basically all of life.
Yeah.
Life is literally a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
You know, I
Yeah.
like this old saying where it says, I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future.
We
You
do.
know, we just have to take that leap of faith with our life.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to learn to love. A funny thing happened back in November, December of 2019, or no, 2018. Um, I told my wife, you know, certain things that we're going to do. And at first, she'd be like, right. One time I told her, I said, hon, we're going to get a check in the mail. She's going, you probably looked at, you know, you get an email from the post office and they tell you what's in the mail. No, no, we're going to get a check in the mail and it's coming in 4 days,
Wow, that's specific.
right? It's coming in 4 days. She's like, right. I said, hey, make you a deal. Put $10 down on the table. Here's my 10. If that check doesn't come in 4 days, you get that $10 bill. She's like, oh, you're on. She didn't get the $10 bill. check came in the mail, and she's like, whoa.
Nice.
Another time one time she said, well, your name ends, your first name, middle name, and then last name ends up to be a number 8, and in numerology, it's, you're getting money from everywhere and this, that, and so when is the money going to start? Right. And I'm like, it's already here. You don't see it? She's like, I don't see it. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. Where is it? I'm like, it's right here. She's like, I don't see it. Suddenly, in 2018, November, December, went to my wife and I said, already had that interview on the podcast, loved it. I'm going to be interviewed on a radio station. She's like, great. Another wishful thinking. I'm going, no, it's not wishful thinking. I'm going to be interviewed on a radio station. About a month and a half later, a friend of mine on Facebook who has a radio disc jockey down in California messaged me on Messenger and said, what are you about? Tell me what you're doing. I keep seeing your posts come up and everything. I want to set up a time for you on the radio. And this radio station, this friend of mine has interviewed Neil Donald Walsh. I believe his name is Gary Redman. Mm-hmm. I think he interviewed Joe Dispenza.
Oh, wow.
Big people.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like I'm looking at his website going, whoa. And I showed my wife the message chat, and I'm like, see? She's like, only you. Right. And so I said, oh, by the way, the money's coming. We were not getting paid for this radio station, talk. And the money came another way. Another person brought money to me.
Right.
So I said, we're going. Started out on a road trip. We went up down to the Oregon Vortex. Then we went down to Mount Shasta to get some more energy there. Went down to Lake Tahoe.
Nice.
Hung out on the lake. Went down to visit family in San Diego County area. And went up to do the radio station.
Very nice. Yeah.
Today, my wife now looks at me and goes, so what's next?
Some people take it just a little bit longer to convince. I know.
You see, the thing is, I keep hearing about this awakening, right? I'm not too convinced about this awakening thing. The reason is, and this may sound funny and it may sound strange, but it's so true. This morning you were in bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you put your feet to the edge of the bed and you sit on the edge of the bed and you're sitting there, you don't go, I'm awakened. And then you walk into your kitchen and you're making your coffee or your tea or whatever, your breakfast, and you're going, I'm awakened making coffee. I'm brewing the tea awakenedly. It's you either are or you're still asleep, right? It's not so much awakening as it is coming back into our truth, our soul truth.
Right, remembering.
Yeah. Our soul knows exactly who and what and why we are.
Right. I see it as waking up from the sleep, the deep sleep that we've all been programmed into.
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
is what how I see the
Mhm.
awakening. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's because we have been asleep for a very long time, and
Yeah.
and I believe, and I totally believe, and I see it all the time, that it has been an agenda to keep us in a deep sleep.
Mhm.
So we're waking up to that deep sleep and
Oh, yeah.
see the truth, like you're talking about, the
Mhm.
truth about who we really are. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to see who's doing it or what the plan is, but that as long as we see who we
Mhm.
truly are and how powerful and majestic and strong we really are, like you say, how we can manifest so much in our life if we just remember how to do it. We have all the tools within us. Everything is within us. All
Yeah.
this is the illusion.
Yeah.
Everything is within us that we need and that we could ever want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's funny, throughout all of 2020, I have posted nothing but positive stuff on Facebook.
Hmm.
Nothing but positive. Zero political,
Hmm.
except the revolutionary act of love, which I'm still backing and 100% standing behind. Um, because of one thing, I am love, but then again, so are you.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
are you.
Yeah.
You
Well, I think
know,
it's a good time to end, Steve.
all
I really appreciate talking with you today, and
right.
all of your profound insights and experiences, and we'll have to do this again because I'm sure we could talk for a very long time.
Oh, definitely. Let's do this again.
Okay, sounds good. All
All
right,
right.
so yeah, don't go away. Thank
Okay.
you everyone for being here, and hopefully you have a wonderful day and the rest of your days.